Hello? Okay, it works properly. Give me a couple minutes. It's gotta fix. Hello? Okay. This is probably the best it's gonna end up being. Yeah. Okay. Let me get the chat going and stuff. Oh lord.
No, they're not. You just clean them. No, they're not. You just clean them.
Alright. Should probably be good now. I don't usually do this kind of thing, so I have to kind of workshop it. Anyway, what I'm going to do right now is, let me get out of this. So for a while now, I've been doing my own rankings of some of the levels, I think, since tier 9, I believe. Yeah, tier 9 is whenever I started. And since then, I've done around 40 levels over the course of a couple months. You don't really realize how long these take to write if you do in-depth descriptions of everything, so I've elected to not do that anymore for my own sake. Yeah, this is the one that I started with. Hello, quarantine woman. Anyway, so what I should probably start with is pulling up on a different screen here, my sheet of everything. I'll probably show this at some point on stream, but for now it's just a list of what I have in each category, like design, fun, creativity, aesthetics, and functionality for each stage. And for the sake of this, I've just been using Flashman's rubric that he posted on his 3rd blog about judging for Make a Good Mega Man Level 3. And I'm probably going to stick with that just because I'm pretty confident it's the one that's been stuck with in the actual game. And it has served me pretty well so far, so that is where we will start. If anything ends up looking like a better system, then I'll change it, but for now I'm going to stick with that. Still figuring out how I want to format everything so I can see the chat and stuff, so bear with me if I don't respond to stuff, but I'm probably just going to get started now. The last stage I did was Underground Runaround by Delta Mudkip, so yeah, so I'm going to start with Tier 13, Stage 29, Glitz Woman by Spoony Bard OL. For Mecha Galbani, it's 73 points. Shinryu, it's 63 points. Patchy with 72 points. Flashman 85 with 76 points. And Ace Spark with 75 points. For an average of 71.8. Just a heads up, I've played all of the levels until Tier 15. It's just I want to go back and actually give them a proper review because I got lazy. Alright, so starting off, aesthetics-wise, I'm quite a big fan of some of the stuff that this level does, but I don't like a lot of it also. Like, for example, this neon sign, these backgrounds are all very nice because they kind of give like the more dingy, like Las Vegas kind of casino vibe that I appreciate a lot. But I think the gimmicks themselves have a bit of issue sticking with the theme. Like, I think these are chairs, like stools that you'd see at a bar or something, but it's very hard to tell that just by standing on them. They kind of just look like generic bouncers. And then I'm really not a fan of just keeping the generic rollers from oops generic rollers from Mega Man Z. Anyway, I like getting to see Glitz Woman early. It's nice. In terms of introducing something like this, I don't really like the style of just leaving it out in the open and then just figure it out, because this doesn't really teach me anything about this. I actually can pretty much actively ignore it. Like, you can just bounce over it. Okay, cool. And instantly an enemy. There's a lot happening at once with little to actually show for it. These Met enemies, and we're gonna see more of them, are performatively they're fine. They work. Oh, awesome. Aesthetics wise, yeah, this looks like sand. This does not look like coins, unfortunately, because I like the idea of like literally having to swim through coins. Very like Scrooge, but it doesn't work as well as you would think. because it really just does give him off a sand, especially with these, I can see if I can get him to spawn again. Yeah, these sand dwellers are very not, they don't evoke a casino vibe as much as I would like them to. Get rid of some of these guys, because it's actually hard to stand in the stage without something trying to get you. Enemies-wise, all of these enemies are fine. I kind of wish that this guy got introduced on his own or without the pursuit of the top hat mets, just because it kind of becomes an issue with clarity if something else is attacking you while you're trying to figure out this, and I don't think there's a clear enough part of the stage later that would teach you how these work. However, what I will say, with the actual introduction of monsters, this is a good challenge. This cannon's not a very big threat, but it still provides something, and usually I would be like, you shouldn't have pits, but since we did already get shown the bouncer, and the actual platforms are large enough that if you did get hit, you would probably be fine, I think this is actually okay. Forgot about these guys. I think they're fine. They're kind of unremarkable as far as special enemies go, in my opinion. Anyway, the first token of the stage, the layout shows pretty clearly that this is the way to go for something special. I don't find any issue with that. Fine challenge. I don't know about how these are used, because I don't actually know how, if you don't immediately destroy them, it's a little hard to kill them if you have poor reaction time. It's fine. I don't think they're a problem. And it's falling money, also fine. I wish the gimmicks in this stage pulled me a little bit more, because I think there are some good ideas here, but it's not used in a way that inspires me very much. Okay, I think this is pretty good. I think this is a natural expansion of the way you've seen the bouncers used, and you gotta be a little careful because you jump too high and you run into those spikes. I think that guy, the hat guy being here is fine. Hat man. I'm gonna call him top hat. Okay. I actually like these a lot. Very different Sniper Joe. I think they're Waiter Joes, that's what they're called. These are very thematically, and also have a unique shot style to them that I actually think is used pretty well. Anyway, so the disco ball is something that a lot of the judges in their reviews have kind of a middling take towards. Like, it's interesting, but it reads poorly, and I guess I could see that, but the problem is I already knew about these disco balls before I played the stage for the first time, so it's kind of hard to tell. If you haven't played this stage, you just saw the disco balls. If you don't see the disco balls, everything goes dark. Which I think is a cool idea. I think having like a atmospheric, background kind of gimmick, or at least some sort of towel, makes it a lot easier to actually deal with these parts, and I think it's nice that you can just plan ahead. Oh my god, sorry, I'm trying to explain everything, I've majorly lost any skill I have in this thing. Despite having 100 hours Anyway, yeah, I think I like these as well, though. I don't think they need to change. I kind of always think that Mets should go down pretty easily with a trident, but it's not a big enough deal to actually cause any ruckus about it. Plus, they're used pretty sparingly in forced situations. Being able to see these gimmicks still when it starts is a good choice. Kind of guides you, and I like that this stage, unlike some other stages, like the first Darkness, this stage never feels like you're useless whenever it's dark. I believe? Never mind. I thought for some reason you could break these guys' plates and would be defenseless like some other Sniper Joe variants, but I don't think that's true. Alright. Ooh, Slatan. This is a pretty lackluster boss, honestly. Like, you go up to attack him. He doesn't really try to stop you in any way, but then he spawns one enemy that you pretty easily get rid of. It's an interesting idea, and something I see a lot in like the single player stages, but it doesn't actually end up going anywhere just because you can very easily kill him. If there maybe spawned more enemies, or like it could maybe spawn one Slatan, sorry, not one Slatan, like one of the Waiter Joes and then maybe a Met, and it had a variety, that would be more useful. Anyway, I will say, I like that the coins are the only place where these Sandwalkers can go, because it is a good telegraph, but I think that's part of the course. Which is fine. Like you're using a dropper again, and it's not really doing anything. Like that. If I didn't just walk into that, that would not have caused me any peril whatsoever. The Terra, I think it's Terra. It's either Terra or like Uranus. Whatever stage these droppers come from, they're used to decent effect. And I like it because you get blinded, but you still have these to guide you, and I usually don't find these to be much of a threat, but in this stage it actually can be a little bit. More jumps. This isn't particularly threatening, but it's an alright challenge. Oops. You know what? I need to check that actually. Can you tell that that's there before you because if you can't tell that that's the right way, I think that's a point off somewhere. It's very oh my god, I'm terrible at this game. It's very important to have that sort of clarity with your darkness sections. Especially if you don't get okay, got a time user, I'm gonna die like an idiot again. Yeah, you can't tell which way that is. Yeah, if you went forward a little bit, you'd be able to tell, but I personally am inclined to go for tanks and other rewards like that as soon as possible. But I don't think that's necessarily poor design. I don't really know what this is supposed to be. It's not really anything. Okay, this token. I've been back and forth on this because I usually don't like secret tokens. as in like tokens that are just hidden. Instead of being challenges, they're just hidden somewhere that you would need a keen eye to spot. You see these a lot in games like Shovel Knight, and I don't personally buy it most of the time because I think they don't really challenge the player and kind of force you to play the whole game with a hawk's eyes. But in this situation, I think it's fine because it's clever with the darkness just falling right before them. You kind of just get a glimpse of it, and I think it catches your eye enough, that little hole in the wall, that it works. Anyway, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, I missed the token, but that's okay. Despite all the gimmicks in this level, it does still kind of feel like a semi-central level, just because there's nothing that's ever really done that excites me too much. And I wish that wasn't the case, because there's cool things that this level could do, and I think this kind of dingy casino is my favorite version of a casino that's in any of the casino stages, because there's Mafia Man, which we'll get to at some point, and Hit the Jackpot. I think this one has the most representative vibes of how it actually feels being in a casino. It's very almost sleazy feeling, but not in like the comically evil way that like Mafia Man has. More just like this is a place of greed, a place that just wants your money. And with all the neon lights and stuff, it really does feel like Las Vegas. Okay, let's... Holy moly, let's not die again. Sorry, I'm sure this is an incredibly boring part for anyone watching, just because I cannot feel... Oh my goodness! Holy cow. Alright. It's time to be serious. Try to do my guide. Sounds like these make me wish that Time Stop still was in MaGMML and make a good Mega Man level, but unfortunately not in 3. Oh my goodness, this is not a hard level. Oh jeez, okay. Could call this Nitro confuses and stumbles himself on everything in this level. Okay, let's do this. Alright, this is getting a little sad. Actually, this is a good time to check. Is this fully destroyed by using the deck? No, because of those droppers. Alright, yeah, it's... I always forget to check these long sections, but that actually totally works out, and then this next section you can't use that. But if you did need it, there's still a decent chunk of that you could use Jet. I think that's the kind of thing we're looking for whenever I'm going to more seriously look out for the weapon viability of stages. Because usually I wouldn't look that deeply into it. Okay. Let me get the token. I believe this, yeah, Aurora Man. I can't believe Dr. Wily fired me just because I was late getting to my boss room last year. Okay, Aurora Man is like tier 8 in Mega Man 2. Make a good Mega Man level 2. And I'm actually not sure if they were made by the same person that made Glitz Woman, but it'd be interesting to see why that specifically wouldn't count as sort of an identity reveal. It seems very wishy-washy on what actually ended up counting for the identity reveal penalty. Okay, decent challenge, but easily dodgeable. These rounds are just really that interesting. This is okay. I kind of wish we didn't use turrets so much. Oh, I forgot that's not semi-solid. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this happened to me the first time I played through this level. It's just, it really is dragged me sense of checkpoints, and I don't know why. It might just be because there's so many bottomless pits here. But the stage being relatively easy challenge-wise, I took forever to get through it the first time. Go down here. Alright, we're back here. One interesting thing with this does is it forces you to think like you're maneuvering a little bit more. I'm curious though. Yeah, that is sketchy enough. Sketchy enough that I would kind of have to think through that for a while before I tried it on a regular playthrough. And then we have this guy at the end. Kind of a classic way to end up the level. Some big tank. Anyway, Glitz woman. In a minute, I forgot we had these descriptions. I like when it's no points off or on, but I appreciate whenever they do things like this in levels with custom enemies. It's fun to get little blurbs about everything. I think this helps the charm and aesthetics in general. You got, okay, these are Matops. Oh no, that's Matop. This is Susie J. Ruline is kind of not much of anything, honestly. Waiter Joe I think is pretty useful. Slot on, I am not the biggest fan of. And then Glitz woman, we're about to get to her. Glitz woman. I like this background. This is a nice background. Okay, this diving move is very unique. I appreciate that. Honestly, bosses don't tend to have a lot of standing on my level ratings just because I think they don't really make or break the level. They're an important part of Mega Man, of course, but not as much as the level design itself. I think she's a competent boss. I think that dive attack is interesting. The way she uses her shield is kind of par for the course, but I like that it breaks off in this more like gravity-based thing. A lot of her attacks kind of have a gravity physics to them, which I think is interesting because usually you just have straight projectiles. Her skipping's also interesting. I think that's a good characterization for her, as well as her diving into coins. goodness, I'm hopeless. Oh my goodness. Ah. Alright. There comes a time in every man's life where he just has to give up and use trials. Alright. That was Glitz Woman's stage. I'm gonna have to pull up the reference sheet that I've been using for Flashman's rubric. Nathaniel Hoover. MaGMML3. Have some patience because I'm gonna be a second trying to figure this out. Part 3. Alright. Okay, so the rubric is split into 5 parts. It's design, fun, creativity, aesthetics, and functionality. And obviously these are all weighted differently. Functionality is 10. Tends kind of to be the free points category unless you have something majorly wrong, honestly. And then we have aesthetics, creativity, fun, and design. Anyway, this is Glitz Woman, stage 29, and the judge average for this stage is 71.8. Let me save that. And tier 13. Anyway, let's go over the stats. Okay, so for design, first thing is introductions. Honestly, they're fine. There's nothing that ever made me think that ever made me completely confused. I know that some people find the disco ball confusing. I don't find that personally difficult to understand. However, I don't like whenever things are just placed willy-nilly. Like, at the start, you kind of just get the spring, you get the sand, the coins dropping, sorry. Keep saying sand. And it's not... It doesn't challenge the player to actually interact with the stage pieces. Rather, it just makes them play in a really... Sorry, this goes to show I am terrible at voicing my opinions. You can kind of ignore most introductions, and they're not as useful as they possibly could be. And so, introductions, I'd probably give like a 3. Anyway, challenge design, which in parentheses means is it deliberate, meaningful, fair, reasonably perfectible. I think most things here are fair enough. Is it like the best fairness wise? I don't think so, just because the darkness kind of allows some sections to be difficult to read. But all in all, I think it's about a 4 out of 5 on challenge design. I think most things are intentional and are where they need to be. And tokens are also pretty intentionally placed, which I appreciate, because a lot of tokens and a lot of levels kind of just feel all over the place. Anyway, challenge progression, which is basically increasing difficulty over time. I think that is done poorly in this stage, honestly. I don't think that there is much interesting build-up of challenges over time. I think it's harder as you go, but I don't think it's more complex, which I generally think is not a good thing. Challenge progression should also include increasing the complexity of your ideas, but from the start everything's kind of combined, so it never really amounts to anything. And as I was just playing now, I was kind of surprised that it was just over and that the boss door had already been reached. I hadn't been expecting it yet just because it didn't seem like it'd go up to anything. So for challenge progression, I'd probably give it like a 2. Anyway, focused, which in parentheses is coherent vision, manageable roster, nothing over underused. I think this is done pretty well. I think that it was pretty clear what was trying to be done here, and all the enemies are used pretty well. I think the Rulines are used a little more sparingly than they should be, and less interestingly, but I think in general everything's focused on well, and I'd probably give that a 4. Anyway, layout, which in parentheses is logical / efficient architecture, obvious pits, safe transitions, sense of direction. Yeah, I think this is fair. I think that's a fair 5. I think everything here is incredibly clear, and I don't think there was ever an issue with legibility that I had. Player consideration, which is length, checkpoints, items, disability awareness, niceties. I think lengthwise it was reasonable. I think this was pretty regularly spaced stage. Checkpoints though, I kind of wish that there was another checkpoint after the second disco ball section, just because that's quite long. It's not a very fun one to repeat over and over again. Items are fine. Items are placed well. So I'm gonna give that 4. Weapon consideration, I think it's fine. I think there could maybe be some situations where you could maybe overuse Rush Jet, perhaps, but there's never a section where I really thought was harmed by this. So probably 3. And then name is a 2. So if I'm doing my math correctly, the introductions is a 3. 3 plus 4, which is 7. 7 plus 2 for challenge progression is 9. 9 plus 4 for focus is 13. Layout is 5, so it's 18. Player consideration, I said, is 4, so it's 22. Then plus 3. Okay, so I got a 27 for that. I think that's fair. 27 design. I've seen better, but I think it is generally used pretty well. And I think that everything comes together for a pretty playable experience. Fun rating, totally subjective rating. Honestly, the stage does not excite me all too much, so probably a 6. It's very enemy based, and that can be fun, but it's not something that entices me here, and I don't think the gimmicks are especially interesting. So I'm gonna say 6. I think it's a fun enough romp, but it's not anything to write home about. Anyway, highs in this level. I think the highs of this level is the disco ball sections are definitely the most interesting. I think those would be the highs. Do the best parts boost the level though? I mean, not really. I would give it a 3 for that, because I think some fun stuff is done, but it's never anything that is very remarkable. Lows, I don't think there are very low lows here. I've complained a lot, but it's easier, honestly, to write about negative things than positive things. The lows, I think it's fine for lows. I'd probably say it's a 4 or 5. I think most things are excusable, and there's never really any issues aside from it being a little bland in the complexity scale. I'll give it a 4 there. So, and then contest appropriateness, I think it's a 5. I think this is perfectly fine as a stage. I think none of it's too difficult or has poor teaching methods or is bad for people with disabilities or just long. I think it's perfectly appropriate. So that's gonna be 6 plus 3. I'm gonna actually, highs I'm gonna say 2. I don't think it's enough to get 3. So that's gonna be 6 plus 2, which is 8. And then 8 plus 4, which is 12. And then plus 5, so that's gonna be 17 for fun. Okay, creativity. Novelty. Does the level offer new experiences or present old experiences in new ways? I mean, the disco ball is new. Everything else is kind of presented in the way I would expect it to be presented. So it's not exactly the most novel thing in my opinion. Just for the disco ball alone, I'm gonna give it a 3 though. Potential. Does the level adequately explore the potential of its various elements? I'm gonna give that a 2. I don't think it does very well, just because I think some things like the falling coins and some of the more interesting enemies like the Waiter Joe could be used in layouts that would be more useful and more creative, because the potential that I see in levels is usually accentuated by a part that I will remember and that will stick with me after the level, but nothing here really ever hit me as a wow, this is something unique this level specifically did to draw out the unique properties of this gimmick or enemy. So I'm gonna give that 2. And then impressiveness, 2. I don't think it's that impressive, this level. I think there's a lot better that can be explored in Mega Man, and I don't think anything this brought to the table was necessarily the best. Anyway, novelty, so that's going to be 3 plus 2 plus 2, which is a 7, which feels kind of wrong now. You know what? For the sake of the novelty, I'm gonna give it an extra point there, just for the disco ball. I think I just like the disco ball a lot. So that's gonna be an 8 in creativity. Aesthetics wise, I think, okay, audio. Let's go take a look see here. Yeah, I'm a fan of this song. I think it perfectly gives the vibes that the visuals and the casino setting are meant to evoke, and I think out of most songs in this contest, this one has the best synergy with the visuals. So I'm gonna say 5 for audio. Visuals, I think they're pretty decent. I don't think they're the most polished, especially Glitz Woman can be a little difficult, especially since she has very small projectiles that are kind of easy to miss, especially against a yellow background. And also the coins look like sand. I'd hate to say it. And these seats also don't really make me think of anything related to casinos. Also, I just thought of this. I kind of wish that these looked like the rolling parts of a slot machine. That'd be really interesting. And I just realized I think that's what it was supposed to be going for. So visuals, I'm gonna give it a 3. Atmosphere, I'm gonna give it a 4. I think this pretty much nails the atmosphere for the most part. I think it does a good job. Or maybe a 5. I might give it a 5. Yeah, I'll give it a 5. So that's a 5 plus 5 plus 3. That would be a 13. 13 aesthetics. When I was first looking at this and saw I got a 27 in design and 17 in fun, I was kind of scared I was just going to copy Flashman, but I think it might be a little less than that. Okay, functionality-wise, I'm sure there's something here that might be an issue, but in my opinion, I think this stage is completely fine functionality-wise. I've never ran across any issues, and I've gone through the stage a couple of times now. I think it's fine. I will give that a 10. So, give me a second, let me try to do mental math. So 17 plus 13 is going to be 30, and then 30 plus 10 is 40. So then we have 40, and then 67. 67 plus 8 is 67 plus 8 is the same as 70 plus 5, so I think we got a 75 on our hands, and I think that's a pretty worthwhile estimate. This stage does good. It does good, don't get me wrong, it's just not in a way that really grabs me like some levels do. But of course, my personal opinion of what's interesting in a level does not mean that it's a good design or bad design. And I think this is a well-designed level. I think it does a good job in what it sets off to do. Anyway, let's read these real quick. After this one, I spent way longer than I thought I would on Glitz Woman. I'll probably try to speed it up in the future. I'm going to just read these, and then I'll probably get off for the night. But in comparison, we got a 73, a 63, a 72, a 76, and a 75. I got a 75, which is over the average. Anyway, let's read everyone. Mick Galbani. A robot master stage set in a casino? Not something you see every day. Glitz Woman's stage is a fine experience, playing out how I'd expect a robot master level to go. It has a solid variety of enemies and gimmicks, both customized and familiar, and it gradually grows into a respectable endgame. Not amazing, but by no means is it bad. My favorite part is easily the enemies. I got a kick out of the Metops, and their higher aggro range offers a bit more variety in how you use them. Susie J was brilliant. There was something fun about the paranoia they created with piles of coins. And Waiter Joe was another highlight. His telegraphed attacks and unique projectiles again gave him more variety than the standard. Rulia is a less interesting in comparison, but it's enough of a challenge with its accuracy that I'm happy to see it. On the dev kit side, while Diarn has an annoying tendency to show up after a risk assessment's already been made, thus throwing you off, Wall Blaster is surprisingly good, and I really like the setups with Bomb Boy when he appears. The gimmick side is less interesting overall, but no less effective. The spring stools look interesting, and I'm surprised at how well they work with spikes and wall blasters even if they're infrequent. The coin dispensers are a good reskin of Drillman rocks, and the flashing telegraphs are much appreciated. The disco ball is the weirdest gimmick in the room, and I feel like it could have used one more appearance. However, both of the disco rooms are pretty fun, particularly finding the second token, and I appreciate that this isn't an assault on the eyes when it's active. Not to mention, trying to fit 3 disco balls in the stage might have made it too long, so I could appreciate the restraint. In general, this is fine. If the worst thing I could say about the stage is that I'm a little underwhelmed, it did something right. Sadly, the bosses leave something to be desired. Slodon is an interesting concept, but his low health and easily dodged attacks mean he is no threat. Even Buster only, I've been able to dispatch him with 0 danger, which is a problem. Glitz Woman is a bit better, putting up a decent fight with interesting attacks. Unfortunately, RNG attacks don't mesh with her fighting style, and while she's good about getting rid of it regularly, she suffers from typical shield boss tedium. She's more interesting than normal, but shield bosses usually aren't very much fun. Shinryo. Not a bad stage, all things considered. There's a few things here and there that feel a bit off, but for the most part, I really enjoyed my time with this one. Starting off with the positives, I really like the general pacing of the stage. Everything gets a proper introduction and doesn't stay in hand-holding mode for very long, keeping a steady difficulty curve throughout. Granted, I did find most of the stage to be a bit on the easy side, barring maybe a few rooms here and there, but it was never easy to the point of being boring. The stage still managed to feel engaging thanks to most of the enemies and gimmick placements complementing each other, with the custom enemies in particular standing out quite nicely. I especially like the diamond shooting enemy that hides in the coins. The disco ball rooms are probably the most notable part of the level. While I'm not the biggest fan of lighting gimmicks, I didn't mind this one since it's not on any kind of timer. Plus, it's pretty easy to figure out where to move around and jump to, with maybe the exception of the final token room near the end. That one might just be on me, but I feel it's very easy to miss. All that aside, we also have the matter of the bosses. The slot machine mini-boss feels a bit strange. I think that's mostly because he has a boss-type invincibility frames after being hit. Even then, he seems to have very low HP to the point where I didn't even get a chance to see him attack more than once during my first playthrough. It definitely feels like he could have used a buff to make him more of a threat, especially since when he actually does attack, he only spawns one enemy and is very slow to do so. As for Glitz woman herself, I can't really say I enjoyed her fight much, unfortunately. While her basic attacks are fine, if a little wonky, that fancy walk move of hers really threw me off. The fight starts to have issues once she uses her shield. The dive move into the shield can make her invulnerable for a good chunk of the battle, and in turn causing the fight to drag out for most Buster-only players. I feel like she could have done this move with less frequency, or at least given the player a longer window to hit her as she jumps back to raise her shield. That one issue aside, I didn't have any other problems with the fight, but the sheer amount of time she can spend invincible during it really does drag it down a bit. Despite the slight fumble with the bosses, I'd say this is still a very solid stage altogether. Patchy. Glistering Glitz. It's a fine stage, but it feels just a little bit unpolished at times, and for being a casino-themed stage, it didn't quite bring the theme to its full potential, I'm afraid. Maybe could have used one or more unique gimmicks to really spice it up. I like the concept of the Waiter Joe enemies, and the Mets are really cute. Can't say the same about the Rulines. Their arching shots can be a real pain to dodge on many occasions, and are just really irritating to deal with. The darkness section is also a bit odd, definitely not expected for a casino stage. Regardless, it is still pretty unique in execution, in that the room is only completely dark if you're positioned where the backdrops are, covering the light object in the background. One problem that seems to show up a lot in the stage is respawning enemies on screen edges. Oftentimes there are enemies in the way, so that a player's natural instinct is to move back and dodge the shots, but before they know it, they get ambushed by a Met or a Susie J from the previous screen, making the whole situation way more hectic than it should be. The darkness mechanics also often lead to that, especially for the section near the end where one of the Rulines can snipe you from off screen. I feel like the rotating platforms really should have been top solid, but they're not, and that makes escaping some jumps trickier than it should be. There's also this one jump at the end of the stage that was clearly designed as a trap, which actually, this happened to me, which just doesn't sit well for me, considering you get sent back quite far to the problematic portion of the stage, no less. Boss is alright and simple, although a little too random at times with where she decides to jump or choose her attacks, which ends up with me being cornered more times than I should be. The credit room is neat, where it provides names for the custom enemies, makes it more convenient for the review, and the descriptions for them are cute and charming. Alright, Flashman, 85. This is a level that goes all in with the theming, takes a worthwhile gamble on several unique enemies and gimmicks, and knows when it's time to cash out. It introduces new concepts in a rapid but effective manner, combines elements in different ways, and keeps the player going with checkpoints and power-ups that only need a little bit of tinkering to be ideal. The graphics look nice enough, but don't always read as intended. I had trouble discerning what Waiter Joe was supposed to be, and it wasn't until the very end that I realized the dirt floors and breadcrumb piles were probably coins. I do like the little touches that offer crisper detail, such as Swordman's sword in the boss chamber. I also like the visual transitions from one area to the next, which keep the backgrounds interesting and work with the challenges to create a good sense of progression. I feel a definite difficulty curve with the challenges, but not always a clear sense of vision. In particular, any screen with Susie J tends to immediately spiral out of control. The challenges aren't bad though. Bouncy platforms, fun. Coin shoots, great telegraphing, and disco balls, cool idea, are used especially well. The mini-boss and final platforming challenge are also highlights. Polish is the biggest issue for me, slow load times, missing collision on the boss portrait. Unnecessary two-way screen transitions, mildly unclear directionality at the first path, split, and the blink and you'll miss it entrance to the second token, Glitz woman wiggling out against the wall, etc. I respect a lot about this level, e.g. clearly labeled bottomless pits, the bonus room with the enemy bios, but I wish the respect translated into greater excitement. For my taste, there are just too many moments of confusion and too many shielded enemies, but thank you for giving them a respectable resistance, Laser Trident. Alright, Ace Spark. Glitz Woman straddles a few lines. It's difficult, with screens filled with enemies, projectiles, and death pits, and Glitz herself being a significant challenge to end on. Honestly, it's a good thing that not many things do a lot of damage. Had damage values been any higher, it probably would have pushed the stage into frustration, but the players should get used to having very little health as they get repeatedly barraged by a stray bullet or burrowing critter. This stage is adorable. I love all the little flourishes and details as you progress through the casino, a highlight being the neon signs of Mega Man and related items. The new enemies are obviously adorable too, but a nice touch is enemies based on their room. Dark room enemies and light room enemies choose a palette that helps them stand out more. While some of the larger pixel art is questionable, the overall package results in a good looking level. My favorite aspect of the stage might just be the dark rooms. They may fall into the overcrowded category, but the layouts here do a good job of not, to make it an unintentional pun, leaving the player in the dark as to where to go or to traverse. The darkness isn't the danger here, and it could have been easily brutal. Oh my goodness. Both bosses are on the polar opposite end of this difficulty spectrum. Slodon is so easy to be basically irrelevant, but Glitz Woman herself has some really difficult to dodge and parse attacks. Something about her movement makes life hard for the player. She's a reasonable fight, and it's fun to fight what is basically Scrooge McDuck as a robot master, but she is tough. I think this stage will live and die on if it crosses a difficulty line for people. It doesn't for me, but it's a close thing. Alright, Glitz Woman. This stage, my opinions on it are mixed enough that I don't really know what I think about it. I really like the aesthetics and the general atmosphere this stage conveys, and I think it really just goes all in on it, which I appreciate. However, I think the design is pretty lackluster in its execution, and all in all, it's a pretty middling stage. There's nothing that caused a big issue for me, but I think some things like the Slodon are very easy and kind of underwhelming, and I think that's kind of the main issue with the stage. It's just very underwhelming. But I really like the attempts made here to do something unique with this casino theme, and I hope that whoever makes this level, Spoony Bard, wow, I hope that you do more in the future, because I think you have some cool ideas and really good theming that I would like to see more of. Anyway, Glitz Woman is done, and next time, whenever I do a stream, we are going to be going after Boostman by Isabelle is a Bee in Silver Laguna. This one will be an interesting one because I haven't examined it in a long time. Anyway though, I'm about to go to sleep for the night, so see y'all.